So here we are, The Last of Us Episode 6. To be completely honest, I didn't think we would get this far into the series without absolutely despising it. Don't get me wrong, it's had its fair share of hiccup throughout this here series. But I can't quite say I necessarily dislike it. I also can't necessarily say I really enjoy it, but we'll see. And especially with this newest episode, I think it might actually be the best one yet in terms of character development, even if I did think it was a little bit weird how they delivered it at times. But before we get into this, I actually have a 3.5 hour long review on The Last of Us Part 2. If you're interested in that sort of thing, like long form content, you can just kind of put in the background while you're working or something. And if you by any chance liked these types of reviews, I mostly do gaming reviews, but I felt like this is kind of an exception because, this is a video game TV show. So if you enjoy this, and you enjoy what I do, it'd be very much appreciated if you could subscribe to my channel, make sure that all those notifications are turned on, and maybe a like. But most of all, I hope you enjoy the video. With the preamble out of the way, let's get into this. So it starts off with the last few minutes of the previous episode where Henry unalives himself right after he unalived his brother Sam. It then shows that 3 months go by and there's some old dude coming back from a hunt who walks into his cabin and sees this other old Cherokee woman sitting down here. All I'm saying is it must be pretty hard to keep up that figure in a damn apocalypse. You really telling me this old ass dude is finding enough food for this old bick to be that fat? Body shaming aside, they better have a good explanation for this, which they don't. I don't know, it's just my personal opinion. Joel and Ellie kind of take these people hostages a little bit, but they're not necessarily hostages. They just want to know information, and they're just kind of, pointing guns at them and making sure they don't kill them sort of situation. They really don't mean them any harm. These people are actually very nice. I thought the woman was actually pretty funny. Even though she's being held hostage by them, she still was kind enough to make them soup. I don't know, I just thought that was kind of funny. Joel and Ellie interrogate these people as to the location of Tommy. And of course they haven't really seen anything because they're pretty well isolated. And even though these two people are kind of goofy, they do give him a serious warning to not go west past the river, because they say that nothing but death is beyond that point. Which I actually was a little bit grateful that they weren't talking about some sort of skinwalker type situation, because that just would have been really stupid if they would have injected mythological creatures into The Last of Us like that. I would have been okay, this is just too much. This is just turning into a completely different genre. But no, they just mean that there's just a lot of people that they've been seeing on the other side of the river that have been strung up and dead, and whatever is doing that, it's just had them freaked out. Joel kind of has what I'm assuming is a mini panic attack, but yeah, I say it's a panic attack because right after Ellie says to him, "If you die out here, I'm screwed," he seems to snap right out of it. What could this mean? You'll see. So after a little bit of traveling, they set up camp, and it actually kind of has a little bit of a callback to the game where you see Joel kind of taping up his boot here, and in the game he actually had a similar look with his own boot. So after Joel and Ellie have a little bit of a bonding experience through a minor case of minor alcohol abuse, she asks him what is he actually going to do once she's been delivered to the Fireflies, and Joel actually doesn't even know the answer to this question. He says maybe he'll start a ranch and he'll just be a sheep herder. Ellie at this point says she doesn't really know what she's going to do either, but that she always wanted to be an astronaut, and then asks Joel if what they're doing is really going to work. Will they actually create a vaccine through her? And Joel's actually a little bit optimistic, it seems. She also conveys that she tried to save Sam when he revealed to her that he was infected, and she tried to smear her blood inside of his bite. Joel says it's probably a lot more complicated than just smashing blood into blood, but he says something here that I just cannot forgive. Okay? He says Marlene is a lot of things, but she's no fool. And if she says they can do it, then they can do it. I think this is them preemptively trying to get ahead of the obvious divide that will probably happen when they get to season 2. And for those of you who have played The Last of Us and have experienced, unfortunately, both stories, then you will know what I'm talking about, and you will probably know where my biases lie. But for those of you who don't necessarily want the entire story spoiled for them, I will hold off on this for just a little bit, at least until the final episode. So Joel decides that he's going to take watch both day and night so that Ellie can get some sleep, but actually wakes up to Ellie guarding him. And she's actually not a snarky asshole for once, seeming like she actually just wanted him to get some sleep for once. And he actually thanks her for doing such. They then make it to the bridge, and for some reason Joel lets off a shot across the river, which is kind of weird why he would just give away their position like that. And then on top of that, they walk across the bridge, which, I mean, it's like, if anything, you would want to sprint across that. I mean, shit, you probably want to do some slide canceling along that damn bridge like you do in Warzone, so that you're not sitting there with your dick in your hands waiting for some dude to snipe your ass. Also, Ellie is trying to whistle, which was kind of a little detail in the first game. Like, she was trying to whistle throughout the course of the game. She slowly but surely learned how to whistle. Anyways, after they see the hydroelectric dam, they get turned around a little bit, and they realize a little too late that they may have wandered into the river of death. And just then, a whole shit ton of horses pile up on them, and they make them put down their guns while they send out an infection-sniffing dog to see if they're infected. Which, surprisingly enough, Ellie is not detected by it. Which, I mean, that's pretty scary, I mean, to be faced with that, even if you were infected. Like, I mean, it's either you take the bullet now, or you get torn up by this dog. So, sheesh. Anyways, Joel relays to the men and woman that he just wants to find his brother, so they ride him into the city where he reunites with Tommy. And it's actually a pretty heartwarming scene. Like, you can obviously tell they haven't seen each other in quite some time. I would even go so far as to say it was definitely more enthusiastic than what the game did. But, I mean, the game was kind of going for a different approach, you know. Joel was a bit more reserved in his emotions, and I don't know, I kind of do like that sort of thing better. But all in all, a decent adaptation. Anyways, Joel and Ellie start eating a meal, probably the most decent one that they've had in the last couple of days.
What?
What's wrong with you?
What about her manners?
I think maybe this scene is trying to set up the next episode where it's going to cover the Left Behind DLC. And maybe, potentially, this is setting up the Dina subplot, because maybe that is like Dina. That's going to be in the second season. Potentially, but I don't know. Kind of a stretch though, but she does kind of look like her. Anyways, Joel thanks this woman who's been sitting down with them for her hospitality, but he would just like a moment alone with quote-unquote family. And Tommy relays to him that Maria is family and that he's married her. And yes, this is Maria, and yes, she is race swap. Which a lot of people might be giving me shit right now, saying, oh, well, you know, you racist, saying that, but, which, I mean, I'm just saying, if this was the other way around, and this was a person that was portrayed as black in a TV show, and they were race swapped, all the video game publications would be saying that this is a major issue and that it would be whitewashing. Putting that aside, this actress, for some reason, when I watch her in the behind the scenes footage, she actually seems like she's quite a normal person and she's articulate. I'm saying this because I don't know what was going on, if it was the director or her acting or something, but she was just acting really weird throughout this entire episode. And I'll show you what I mean when I get to them.
A bad reputation doesn't mean you're bad.
Not always, at least.
Oh, shit!
I mean, yeah, I know that scene is relaying that she knows that Joel is a murderer, and that him and Tommy used to kill innocent people. But still, just the way she looks at him is like super weird. And she makes this face more than once. I'm just saying, it was wildly distracting for me. Anyways, Joel is absolutely shocked by this news. Not because she's black, obviously, but because he got married in what seems to be about, I would say like 4 months, 4 or 5 months maybe. I mean, because he said that he lost contact with him 3 weeks ago, and we can guess that perhaps it has taken a week of travel time to get to where they were in Kansas City, and then it was 3 months after Henry unalived himself. So yeah, like 4 or 5-ish months, I would say. But yeah, that's pretty quick. I mean, I understand it is the apocalypse, so there might be some wiggle room on that. But still, he's also pissed that he just did not tell him about this, because he hadn't heard from him in such a long time.
Collective ownership.
So, communism.
Nah, it ain't like that.
It is that, literally. This is a commune. We're communists.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer?
I'm not necessarily sure if that's accurate, but this has lit up a goddamn firestorm on Twitter and Reddit as to if communes actually are communists and if they are beneficial or not beneficial. I will say, for my 2 cents on the issue, that communes in a small setting with a small amount of people probably work okay, but trying to institute them in a large scale or into a government body has led to the most amount of pain and suffering caused in human existence.
That's just like your opinion, man.
Anyways, it is kind of cute because Ellie is petting her horse that she would have in The Last of Us Part 2 that was named Shimmer. So it is kind of cool that there was a little callback for that. So Joel and his brother start reconnecting a little bit. Tommy thanking him for giving a shit and coming out this far. And Joel quickly changing the subject, saying that he needs Tommy to take Ellie off of his hands and complete his journey by taking Ellie to the Fireflies. Tommy denies him this, and Joel obviously gets pissed off, thinking that it's probably his wife who's talking him out of it. But Tommy relays that he's got a kid on the way, and this only seems to upset Joel even worse. And it seems like Maria was the reason why Tommy went radio silent on Joel, which is actually an interesting development over the game. So their sibling rivalry gets to a point where Joel leaves in frustration, while Tommy is left with his thoughts. As he's leaving, he has another panic attack. And when I saw this scene originally, I was wondering why they were kind of focusing on this chick so much. But then I remembered that Sarah looks different in this series, and this is supposed to be Joel realizing that if Sarah would have survived, she would have a kid just like this. And right now you might be wondering why Joel is actually wanting to pawn her off to Tommy so bad. And I'll admit, it's actually not for the same reason that the game is, but I think both of the reasons why he wants to pawn her off are actually pretty good, which I will explain that later. Anyways, Ellie gets done taking a shower, and Maria gives her a diva cup, but for anyone with a penis who doesn't know what this is, just look it up. It still makes my skin crawl. Ellie goes across the street due to the message that she saw written on her bed, and she finds a little memorial in Maria and Tommy's house dedicated to Sarah and Kevin. So then Maria comes in, gives Ellie a couple of gifts, and offers to cut her hair. And her dialogue's not really too weird at this point, but if you watch how she talks in the interview and you watch how she talks in the show, you can definitely tell something is, I don't know, just not the same.
You're definitely smart. Would have made a hell of a lawyer. There's a whole lot you're not telling me. Good. Herein lies the point.
When we were in Canmore filming, just the little town of Jackson, I was just like, there's the bank, there's the studio, lights! I was like, they got everything!
Ellie says that she's sorry about her 2 kids that she lost, referring to Sarah and Kevin, but she corrects her saying that Sarah is Joel's kid, and Ellie retorts by saying that that explains a lot. Maria also warns Ellie that Joel's done a lot of messed up things in his past, but she doesn't really seem too concerned by it.
Be careful who you put your faith in. The only people who can betray us are the ones we trust.
Okay, so like I was saying, is something weird about her dialogue, right? Like, it's not just me. Like, I mean, she's looking like she got crazy eyes. Am I just the only one who's seeing that right now? I don't know. Maybe she's trying too hard, or maybe the writers didn't give her enough to work with, or the director just didn't flesh out her character more. I don't know, but something's just very weird with the way that she's acting. Anyways, Ellie goes to this movie that they're showing while Tommy and Joel make up for the argument that they had before. And Joel actually gives a reasoning as to why he wants Tommy to take Ellie. Joel first explains that Ellie is immune and that she can't be infected, and that the Fireflies want her to try to develop a vaccine of some sort, and that he would do it himself, but he feels that he is just simply too old to complete the job effectively. He's almost deaf in one ear, he's not as quick as he used to be, or as strong, and he feels like the time where Ellie saved him from getting killed by that 14-year-old kid, who, I mean, kind of looked around his 20s to me, was a sign that he just simply can't take care of her anymore. And every close call that they've had so far has been the reason why he's been so anxious and why he's been having panic attacks. Now, this is a bit different from the original story, for in the original story, he didn't necessarily care about his age, or maybe just his age wasn't a factor yet, even though they're, about the same age, I would say. But no, the reason why he didn't want to take Ellie was because he realized that he was getting too attached to her, and he felt like if he kept going, he would only grow more attached to her, and eventually she would die, or he would die, either forcing him to relive his memories of Sarah dying, or him dying and having her go through the pain of losing essentially a parent. I just wanted to give that context because it's very important. But I actually think that both of these stories are good in their own merit, as different as they may be. That being said, Joel tries to guilt trip the fuck out of Tommy into doing his business, and Tommy reluctantly accepts. But it seems like Ellie actually heard a little bit of what they said.
Psych!
Is that not the best case I can make? That she's trying way too hard in this. Like, just look at how she's looking around. Like, do you see normal people acting like that? Am I the only one here that sees that she's got like crazy eyes? Whatever. I shouldn't be making fun of people's appearances. I'm sorry. The actress is probably a fine person, but for some reason, her character here looks like she's gonna skin people in their sleep. I'm just saying. Anyways, so the confrontation between Ellie and Joel goes, at best, about the same as it did in the actual story, and at worst, maybe slightly less. But still pretty good overall. I don't think the actors necessarily nailed it, but it wasn't that bad, actually.
Not her, you know.
What?
Maria told me about Sarah.
Ellie?
And
You are treading on some mighty thin ice here.
Not her, you know. Maria told me about Sarah and...
No, don't say another word.
I'm sorry about your daughter, Joel.
I'm sorry about your daughter, Joel. But I have lost people too.
You have no idea what loss is.
But I have lost people too.
You have no idea what loss is.
Everyone I have cared for has either died or left me. Everyone fucking except for you.
So don't tell me that I'd be safe with somebody else, because the truth is, I would just be more scared.
You're right. You're not my daughter. And I sure as hell ain't your dad. And we are going our separate ways.
Anyways, Joel has a non-barbiturate-induced daydream sequence and then passes out. And the next day, Ellie is about to go off with Tommy when Joel tells her that he feels like it wasn't right for him to just impose that on her, especially after they've bonded so much. So he actually gives her the choice to either go with Tommy or him, and she, without hesitation, chooses Joel. I gotta admit, that was a really good touch, and it does actually do the characters justice, especially with him giving her a choice. That's going to be very interesting playing out in the future, especially if you know how this whole thing ends. That being said, it was actually interesting to see the town of Jackson. You know, in the first game, we didn't actually get to see the town. We just got to see the hydroelectric dam that powered the town. And I mean, we did kind of see the town from like the outside a little bit, but we didn't actually get to see it proper. So it is kind of cool that we actually get to see it from the inside. And according to the behind the scenes stuff, they actually literally had to buy out the whole town just to do this scene, which is pretty cool. Anyways, so after they leave Jackson, there's actually this really cool, touching moment I like where Joel is teaching Ellie how to shoot a rifle, and she's trying to nail a shot, and she's just not getting it. And then she hands it to Joel, and Joel just boom, like bullseyes that shit. I think that was a good moment because it shows that Ellie still has a lot to learn, and Joel is old enough to pass on his knowledge, yet young enough to still do it. So after a lot of bonding montages we see of these two, they finally make it to the university, and no one is there, except for a bunch of monkeys that just kind of run around. Now, this is actually where I have a little bit of beef compared to the game, because this right here I believe is them actively doing revisionist history for the game, because in the game this whole place was run over by infected and the monkeys were running around. But the importance of the monkeys was that it showed that one of the main doctors there got bit by the monkey that was there, and the monkeys were infected with the cordyceps virus. And like, this was the head doctor. Like, this dude decided to voluntarily let a bunch of infected monkeys out into the population to possibly cross-contaminate other species. And he didn't wear protection at all. This part in the game was supposed to kind of cast doubt on the Fireflies as to how smart these people actually were, and to show how much or little faith you should put in them. This combining with Joel literally saying that Marlene knows what she's doing is just something that would never happen. I mean, Joel in the games literally does not give a shit about their goals. But yeah, call me a conspiracy theorist if you want, but I think that that's what's going on. They are running cover right now for season 2 to take place. Whatever, I'm already getting worked up over this. Let's just continue forward. Anyways, they spot some dudes trying to creep up on them, so they try to stealth their way out, but I guess their sneak must have been at like 15 or something, because this dude like runs up behind them and tries to murk their ass, but Joel chokes him out. Although unfortunately the bat happened to have broken off and stabbed him in the stomach by accident. They managed to get on the horse and ride out of there just in time before the guy's buddies get there. And as they're riding out into the outskirts of the university, Joel falls off of the horse, and Ellie actually has a moment of vulnerability here. Like, I was actually kind of surprised. I thought that they would just kind of skip past this, because it would be some woke stuff where it'd be like, oh, you know, she don't need no Joel, she don't need no man, she can do it all by herself. But no, she was like actually showing her vulnerable side here, like actually saying, yo, like, I can't, like, I don't know how the fuck I'm going to survive without you. And that's totally fine. That is how their relationship is. And slowly learns to be better and better so that she can not only take care of herself, but take care of Joel as well. Alright, so a little bit of a side thing here. In the show, Joel gets stabbed by the broken end of a baseball bat. But in the game, he literally falls ass over backwards onto a damn piece of rebar that's sticking out of the ground. Now, in my opinion, it's a little bit of a coin toss which one would actually be worse, because on one end, the piece of rebar actually impaled him through his back and came out the front. Obviously, it missed his spine, but you still have the whole intestinal tract right there that might fracture open. And if that happens, then, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be cleaned there, like, fecal matter and blood, and needs to be stitched up and all that. Now, there is the possibility that because it's a piece of rebar, it might not necessarily be sharp at the end. And if that's the case, then it could have just potentially moved all of his organs out of the way when he was impaled. There has actually been a few recorded cases of such things actually happening and has actually survived because of what I just mentioned. On the other hand, the baseball bat actually broke off and was stabbed into him. And as you can see, it is a sharp weapon, which means that whatever was in its way definitely got tore up. Either way, I'm just going to put survivability of both of these things at a very low chance. Okay, so actually not a bad episode. I'm going to admit, not bad. Like I said, other than the revisionist history stuff, which they're trying to pull the wool over the new viewer's eyes, is actually not that bad. Like, if I had to rate it, I would probably say 7. There was some very good character development. The game, just like the show, should have these types of character moments all the time, spread throughout them. And if you're not, then at least have some really good action to tie us over, which I will admit they have kind of been lacking on. I mean, yeah, episode 5 really bumped it up, but besides that, it's been pretty absent. Here's the hoping that it will only get better with time. Okay, so some updates to the channel itself. Sorry it took me a while to get this review out, but that being said, a lot of projects in the pipeline here, okay? Obviously, I have the Last of Us series that I'm doing right now. I definitely want to get Dead Space out as soon as I possibly can. And then after that, I have a really great idea for a review. What I want to do is I want to play through Resident Evil 2 Remake. Then I'm going to play through Resident Evil 4. And then when Resident Evil 4 Remake comes out, I'm going to play that and do a review of all 3 of them to see how they're all influenced off of each other. I think it's going to be a really great review, and I cannot wait to start playing them because Resident Evil is one of my absolute favorite series. Is one of my childhood classics, not gonna lie. And real quick, just in case you didn't hear enough already, I did do a 3.5 hour review of The Last of Us Part 2. So if you want to hear me bitch about that, click on screen right now or look in the video description. And with that, I'm Mr. LetsGame, and I hope everybody has a good week. Bye bye.